정해진 시간이 되었으므로
It is now 4 o'clock, so let us commence session 3, titled UNESCO Dialogue for Cultural Heritage Cooperation. Please take your seats.
네, 안녕하십니까? 저는
Good afternoon. I will be the chair of this session. I am director of the Institute of Central Asian Studies at Tufts. My name is Son Young-hoon.
먼저 이 자리에 초청해 주신
Thank you very much for this invitation as the chair of this session.
사회를 맡게 되어
And it is personally an honor for me to serve as the chair.
책임감을 가지고
I feel a great sense of responsibility,
정해진 시간 안에
and I also have the big responsibility of timekeeping for this session.
세션은
Session 3
HK+국가전략사업단
is being hosted by the HK+ project agency of Tufts as well as HCAP, and it's a special session that will take a look at the role and prospects of shared cultural heritage for Eurasian cultural cooperation. The 21st century is a century of culture. During the morning and afternoon, we have talked about cooperation in politics, diplomacy, and economy, and I believe that cultural cooperation is just as important as other forms of cooperation. As you're well aware, the Eurasian area, including Central Asia, has different linguistic, historical, and cultural, as well as religious backgrounds, and so there are diverse cultures that exist in Eurasia. And Eurasia also served as the cross point between the East and the West, and it has the history of the Silk Road.
한반도-북방 간의
And therefore,
통과 협력을 위해서는
for the supranational
유사성을 가진 공유
communication between the North, Eurasia, and South Korea, the role of this shared cultural heritage is more important than ever before. And so during this session, we will take a look at the role and prospects of shared cultural heritage from the perspective of UNESCO, and we will also take a look at examples of supranational solidarity and go on to explore the possibility of cooperation with the Korean Peninsula. And I do believe that it will serve as a very important and meaningful opportunity. Allow me to share how we will proceed with this session. During the third session, we will be hearing from Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, UNESCO, as well as Korea. We have 4 keynote presentations, and we have been allocated 120 minutes, but the hosts have asked us to end a little bit earlier than scheduled, and so we would be allocating 20 minutes to each of the presenters. And at the end of the 4 presentations, if time allows, we will be opening the floor for further questions and comments. So we would be able to enjoy a short Q&A if time allows. We will go in the order in the program. We will be inviting National Program Officer Kalafuga Agul from the UNESCO Regional Office in Almaty. Your presentation, please.
Do you hear me? It's okay? First of all, I would like to say great thank you to our colleagues from HK for invitation and to the government of the Republic of Korea for invitation and supporting this meeting and our participation. On the map you can see Central Asia. Since last September, we have some reorganization in the structure of UNESCO, and Almaty Regional Office is coordinating programs in Iran, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Pakistan, Tajikistan, Turkmenistan, and Uzbekistan. And probably you know that in Asia-Pacific region, we have 6 regional UNESCO offices, and Almaty office is one of them. the main directions, the main themes of UNESCO Almaty in culture. It is mostly we are working with the capacity development to strengthen, protect and manage tangible heritage, meaning world heritage. In Central Asia, capacities in fighting, protecting and preventing illicit trafficking of cultural property. Capacities for preparedness, mitigation in emergency for culture. Capacity strength to identify, safeguard living heritage and protect, promote diversity of cultural expressions through dynamic, inclusive cultural and creative industries, and capacities for implementation of the Global Agenda 2030. If we are talking about cultural heritage in general, here our main direction and support to our member states in protecting and working within the cultural heritage, world cultural heritage and natural heritage, and also living heritage. So I would like to introduce our big and famous project for the last 5 years. It is Silk Road's Heritage Corridors in Central Asia, and this project has or respond to the theme of today's meeting. The donor of this big project is European Union, and the project has been started in 2018, and this October it will be closed. Actually, we finalizing this project for Central Asia. And main focus of this project was on safeguarding of World Heritage properties and ICH, promotion common cultural heritage along the Silk Road, and development general understanding of heritage as a component of sustainable development. So if we are talking in more details, the project was focused on rehabilitation of heritage properties in Central Asia, development capacities of heritage managers, promotion heritage of the Silk Road and along the Silk Road. Also, big focus was on ICH safeguarding through different initiatives and activities, and development capacities of tourist guides, because promotion and popularization of cultural heritage we can see through the involvement of tourist guides as well. Right now I will show you the sites where we did some rehabilitation works. In Kazakhstan, for example, it was ancient settlement of Kulan. In Kyrgyzstan, it was ancient settlement of Krasnaya Rechka or Nevaket, where the Buddhist template is existing, and just we assisting in renovation of roofs just for conservation purposes. Also in Tajikistan, we worked at the Tajik National Park, and we assisted to the Republic of Tajikistan with establishing some shelters, camps for tourists. And you can see that this mountain place, sometimes it was difficult to bring construction materials, and we used some donkeys, and on the up photo you can see just a kind of shelter that could be possible in that mountain area. In Uzbekistan, there was a big renovation conservation work at Bogbonil Mosque. So they had 2 phases for conservation and restoration. Also, we, within this project, had different training sessions on restoration or for restoration specialists from Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Tajikistan, Uzbekistan. Our colleagues from UNESCO Tashkent were involved in this project, and they conducted their activities as well, training on restoration of archaeological decor in Uzbekistan and training on new conservation and restoration approaches in Uzbekistan. Also, if we are talking about living heritage, ICH, in Uzbekistan and in Tajikistan, we conducted needs analysis for safeguarding ICH. And within this project, we developed ICH educational manuals in Kyrgyzstan and in Kazakhstan, mostly for teachers of secondary schools, just to introduce to ICH and to main issues for safeguarding and popularization. And also, we did within the project different researches and training of barriers of traditional knowledge. And also one of interesting and important trend in Central Asia, it is ethno-design. And we train our craft people, craft women, just to have better idea on ethno-design development through keeping and safeguarding ICH. Today we raised issues of different video materials, and within this project we managed just to take interview and to share with our audience video materials on nation settlements and ICH barriers, how they work and what works they do, produce, and how they live in Central Asia. All these materials are available through our website, and if you scroll, you can find Silk Road Project, and all materials, video materials, all publications are available there. Also, we tried to do some interviews and some short videos from our guides who participated in our training, and the most active guides and their presentation of their country and the World Heritage Places also could be found on our YouTube channel. We had also promotional materials on ICH with barriers and masters. Also, you can find some information materials from different countries within the project about traditional crafts in Central Asia. And today we also raised an issue that the Korean youth know very little about Central Asia, and I hope that these videos will help to be acquainted closer to Central Asia traditional traditions and traditional craft, and also to the World Heritage sites and components. Also, as you know, the first Silk Road nomination is Qianyan-Tianshan Corridor. And this nomination consists of 3 countries, China, Kazakhstan, and Kyrgyzstan. Within this World Heritage nomination, we had 33 components, and out of them, 8 components are in Kazakhstan and 3 components in Kyrgyzstan. And for all 11 components in Kazakhstan and Kyrgyzstan, we produced such information panels in 3 languages for better understanding, and these panels about the main historical information of this or that component of the World Heritage Site. Also within the project, we adapted and translated training handbook for Silk Road heritage guides, as we told that tourism development is one of the challenging main with important focus from our countries, and we supported our countries with this handbook and with trainings for selected guides. This guide is available on our site as well. Also, one of the, I think, and we are very proud, one of the interesting component for popularization are comics in Russian and English languages. We have comics for 2 Silk Road corridors and illustrations for different ICH elements from Central Asia. And just we think that these comics, promotional materials are or could be very useful for young people especially, and for general population. So you see these are examples. And just last Friday we received a kind of brochures in English and in Russian languages with all these comics, and they will be distributed soon. Also, I hope that all of you are very well acquainted and know the World Heritage Center site at global level, and just you know that there are a lot of programs that the World Heritage Center implement, and one of them it is World Heritage and Sustainable Tourism Program. Within that program, UNESCO has Tourism Management World Heritage Sustainable Tourism Toolkit. And this toolkit was translated into the Russian languages, and now it is also available in the Russian language and could be found at the site of the World Heritage Center. This Sustainable Tourism program has a very interesting and popular program, World Heritage Journeys. The first one was World Heritage Journeys on European World Heritage sites. And within this project, we managed to develop and introduce World Heritage Journeys Silk Road, along Silk Road. It is in the English language, and just we thought that this site, this information will help to people abroad just to be better and closer acquainted with the Central Asia. Again, today we were speaking that people know much about Central Asia, and we hope that this site and this journey will help to acquaint it with the main cities, with the main World Heritage sites, components, and with some additional information about the country. So, for example, the page looks like this, and in this site you can find different information, photos, plus map with all cultural sites. And you can explore, and everybody actually can explore these journeys to Central Asian countries. Also, within this project, we did a virtual exhibition. Initially, when we drafted this project, we had an idea to have a movable exhibition from national museums to Europe. But pandemic, COVID just changed our plans, and we developed this virtual exhibition in partnership with Google Arts and Culture. And this exhibition was titled Common Heritage of the Silk Road. Within this gallery exhibition, we collected actually 60 artifacts, 60 objects from national museums. National museums selected all these objects, provided description to that, and we tried with our partner Google Art and culture, we tried to do this virtual exhibition with 3D objects. If you can enter that exhibition, you will go through special rooms, and each room devoted to the certain country and with the certain 10 objects from the National Museum. And also, as far as we are talking about strategies and cooperation, strategic cooperation between Korea and Central Asia, I would like to share with you and to focus on some needs and to have your attention to these needs. For example, it is a kind of my observation within my experience. We need more research and statistics on culture, not only on ICH, but in general on culture, because these researches and statistics could provide more information, could provide a justification for different proposals, for different fundraising, and again, for me, the most important for decision making, what areas need more attention and in which way. Also, we need to enhance safeguarding and popularization issues. Even in our Central Asian countries, general population does not know what is UNESCO, what UNESCO does, and they do not know much about UNESCO lists, World Heritage List and representative list of ICH. It is important because from mass media they heard something and they do not have clear and coherent picture of cultural heritage and how to work, how to safeguard and how to protect it. And also popularization relates to our education system. And we have to work closer with education system at different levels. Also, we are at UNESCO in deep need to have national experts from Central Asia who could understand the entire system of culture, the entire number of conventions related to culture, to protection and safeguarding cultural heritage. And right now, our national experts mostly working for nominations development, but what will be next and how to work, because to be in this or that UNESCO list, it is not an ultimate goal. We should think about safeguarding and protection. We should think about popularization, and we should think about our young people, young generation that could better understand cultural heritage, who could better understand interrelation between conventions and how they work in each country and how they interrelate in the entire region between the countries. Also, it is important to work not only with education system, but with the local government in our provinces, because our government people at the local level, they also are not aware about UNESCO activities and about UNESCO trends and about, how better to say, about requirements of this or that convention and how these conventions and requirements of these conventions are reflected in the national legislation. It is important because it has impact on conservation, protection, and safeguarding. And also tourism sector. Tourism sector, it is not only about increasing number of tourists, but it is also about increasing understanding of all our tourists about the cultural heritage, about protection, and about safeguarding, because to visit sites, to visit properties, museums, it is one thing, but how not to damage, how not to destroy, it is another thing. And this is another issue that we should strengthen in Central Asia. Thank you. This is just in general snapshots and of general picture within this project. But as I told you that we are working in different directions, and at the end of October, we will have a big regional meeting on illicit trafficking, and we invited all our countries, all our 7 countries, including Azerbaijan, because as we see that illicit trafficking, global challenges, some conflicts of our neighbors, they have some reflections and impact on protection of cultural heritage and of all our cultural properties and objects. Thank you very much, and I'm ready to respond to any questions related to region, to our office and our activities. Thank you very much.
네, 갈리포바 아이굴 담당.
Thank you very much for your presentation. As for questions, we will be accepting all of the questions together at the end of all presentations.
갈라포바 아이굴 담당관님께서
We have just heard from Ms. Aigul, and through her presentation, we were able to learn about the details of the activities by UNESCO Regional Office in Almaty. And it was a great opportunity for us to learn about the conservation and protection activities of UNESCO concerning all types of heritages. In particular, through the Sustainable Tourism Program, we were able to see that you had projects to introduce virtually the heritages of different Central Asian countries, and I believe that, as you have mentioned, the site can be used to learn more about Central Asian countries, in particular for the youth in Korea. For strategic cooperation, you did provide us with some ideas and suggestions, and we would now like to end the first keynote presentation, and at the end of all 4 keynote presentations, we will be accepting comments and questions.
그럼 다음으로
Let us now move on to the second presentation, which will be provided by Director Rudbil Efren of the International Institute for Central Asian Studies. So please go ahead.
Thank you. First of all, I would like to thank the organizers for inviting to this event. It's an honor to be a part of this forum, and I can say that personally I'm very excited because it's my first time in Korea, and as a graduate of economics, I have read a lot about the Korean miracle in development. Now, with my own eyes, I'm going to be a witness of that. And this is my first day, and I have just seen the road from the airport to the hotel, but I'm already impressed by the view I have seen. So thank you very much for inviting and giving me the opportunity to express myself. And secondly, I would like to express my support for K-Silk Road initiative. And I appreciate that this initiative did not ignore cultural cooperation. So if we are now discussing these issues here in Seoul, it means that it's not overlooked, and it's not only a project for economy or political cooperation, but also includes cultural cooperation. So I would like to thank for this too. And I'd like to give some brief information about our institute for those who don't know. International Institute for Central Asian Studies, ICAS, was established in 1995 as an outcome of UNESCO Silk Road program and by 10 founding members. Now we have 12 members. 2 other countries joined later to us, and Korea is one of the founding members of our institute. So we are not a partner of Korea, but we are the Institute of Korea. You can consider like this. I would like to talk about the regional cooperation, existing regional cooperation in Central Asia. Of course, the roots of this cooperation, roots of common cultural heritage. The Central Asian countries, as you have seen in the slide, I mean, this is just some examples from empires in the history of Central Asia, but most of the history of Central Asia has been under one state rule. So this is why these countries have a common history, and in this geographical territory, different ethnicities and cultures have always lived together in peace. And one common characteristic of this region was also a nomadic culture, but this is emphasized maybe too much and too frequently. We should not ignore that this region does not have only nomadic culture heritage, but also there is a strong urban heritage. There are thousands, hundreds or thousands of cities located mostly in Uzbekistan and Kazakhstan, and this heritage is also very important, and we should cooperate in preserving this cultural heritage. And of course, the Silk Road heritage. Our institute was established to study this Silk Road heritage, and no need to explain this very long, because as everybody here knows, the Silk Road was an exchange of goods, trade, tradition, and technology at the same time and for a very long time. So this Silk Road heritage includes both tangible and intangible heritage. So we have been studying this heritage for decades by many actors, global, national, and regional like us. But of course, it's such a rich heritage that it should be studied much more. So I would like to give some examples in regional cooperation in cultural heritage. Out of 28 transnational sites in World Heritage sites, 4 are located in Central Asia. You see the list. I'm not going to read all of them. And one Silk Road corridor nomination process is also ongoing. Here I'd like to underline the next year's Zarafshan-Karakum corridor, because our institute played an important role in the nomination process. We were the coordinator of this nomination dossier. And in the ongoing Fergana-Sirdarya corridor, we are coordinating the Uzbekistan part. So why am I quoting these corridors and these nominations? It also shows that Central Asian countries has a common heritage, and they have a cooperation in the world scene about promoting this world heritage. I mean, we already have a high level of cooperation in the cultural heritage sphere. You see the latest inscription to World Heritage Site. This includes 3 countries, Tajikistan, Uzbekistan, and Turkmenistan, which was coordinated by our institute. And if you look at the ICH list, multinational ICH list, again, it's much more than the place of Central Asia in world geography or economy. I mean, 16 elements of 85. It's like 16% of all multinational ICH elements are from Central Asian countries. Some examples are Shashmakom music, Uzbekistan and Tajikistan, traditional making of yurts, Kyrgyzstan, Kazakhstan, and Nowruz from all Central Asian countries, and traditional production of silk, Tajikistan, Turkmenistan, Uzbekistan, and other 4 more countries. So the intangible cultural heritage is also includes too many common elements in Central Asia. Here, why I'm underlining this? Because I want to stress the potential for cooperation. I mean, there is a high level of cooperation, but there is also more room to cooperate. And some examples on regional activities on ICH. It's World Nomad Games, as it is very famous, now worldwide known. It emerged in Central Asia and in Central Asian countries. International Music Festival Shark Toraneleri in Uzbekistan, and Kokand International Festival of Handicrafts, International Handicrafts Festival, OIMO. So these are, as you see the dates, these are all developments of last 20 years. So there's a very positive development on promoting intangible cultural heritage at a regional level. Not only local or national level, but in regional level. So I would like to talk about cooperation with Korea in general first. As I said, Korea is a member of ICAS. So I should express that apart from some projects which are done jointly with Korean institutions, in all of our projects realized by ICAS, there's contribution from Korea. So this must be stressed too. I mean, Korea is the biggest contributor to our institute from the beginning, from the year 95. So all the member countries and members of the academic council and general assembly are aware of this, and I can also add my country too, Turkey. I mean, Korea and Turkey together finance the biggest part of the expenditures of ICAS. So this is by itself a big contribution to cooperation in cultural heritage studies in Central Asia. So for last 30 years, we should acknowledge and appreciate this contribution from Korea. But apart from that regular contribution, we also have some partnerships with some Korean institutions like HK+. HK+ is an associate member of ICAS, first of all, and we have been actively cooperating since 2020. So the survey on Silk Road ICH network, which 9 countries participated, is a very valuable resource. You can find and download it on our website. So it was realized by the support of HK+. And as a continuation, we coordinated together with HK+ the Silk Road's Living Heritage Network meetings. And these surveys and meetings are a preparation for further studies. I would like to show some of our publications on intangible cultural heritage of Central Asia. Some of them are published by the support of HK+. As you see, there are the Artistic Crafts and Trades series and some local intangible cultural heritage elements. And these books can be downloaded on our website freely in this link. There is also some cooperation on documentary heritage. I'm not talking about tangible cultural heritage a lot because it's already obvious, and our cooperation with Korea is mostly about intangible cultural heritage and documentary heritage. So we have some cooperation with ICDH too. You see some examples of projects with ICDH. This year we are working on Central Asian archives on Korea Saram diaspora. So in today's discussions, I think this Korean diaspora in Central Asia, especially in Uzbekistan and Kyrgyzstan, can also be discussed further because they have an important role in the cooperation between Central Asia and Korea, especially in economic spheres. They are a bridge between the region and the Korea, but in cultural studies, I think they can contribute more. We should discuss this more, how they can contribute, how we can attract them to this area more. So future prospects for cooperation in the region and with Korea. Potential subjects are from the Silk Road Network discussions, as I said, like traditional archery, cradle festival, rice cultivation. So there are so many ideas, but we should concentrate on some of them and work together more on this. There are some challenges, of course, like vanishing traditions, which means that you cannot find the masters in some of these, and the lack of institutional capacity in some cases or in some countries. And of course, the funding is the biggest problem, like always. So increasing public awareness is something important, as UNESCO also works on that. And how can we increase cooperation on ICH, and how can we increase public awareness? And there are some proposals for that, like organizing more international festivals. I have given some examples, but it can be done more frequently and in some different areas too. And Silk Road Cultural News Broadcasts was a proposal again during our studies. Training on safeguarding of ICH. Again, safeguarding of tangible heritage is very frequently discussed, but ICH is ignored mostly. So this can also be developed. And creating new international tourism routes. This is also a new agenda between the Central Asian countries and Turkic Council also. The Organization of Turkic States, new name, also working on this, about creating new international tourism routes. So we can contribute to this. I mean, we as a regional cooperation institute and Korean institutions can also contribute to this. So in conclusion, in summary, there are widespread and diverse elements of common cultural elements in Central Asia. And regional cooperation is developing and proliferating, but there is much more to do. So, as you named this meeting, Walking Together, we can walk together in preserving and promoting cultural heritage of Central Asia.
네, 감사합니다.
Thank you very much for the presentation by Professor Evren. So in his presentation, he discussed the activities of the International Institute for Central Asian Studies, and he also discussed how regional cooperation has been promoted with respect to cultural heritage and intangible cultural heritage as well. Thank you for your discussion. And in his presentation, I was able to really relate to what he mentioned during his keynote presentation, so I'd like to spend about a minute discussing this. The name of the forum is Culture and Strategies Forum for the Korean Peninsula and the North. And we have many guests from the northern countries. And as Director Evren mentioned, we have the common nomad culture. And as a scholar studying Central Asia, we know that nomadic culture is a representative culture, but that is not all, because there are other aspects of cultural heritage where there are cultures of agriculture and farming as well as nomadic culture, and only when we have this correct understanding of the cultural diversity in Central Asia, we will be able to pursue better cooperation. So, when it comes to Central Asia, we need to revisit and review our perception on Central Asia, because it's not just confined to nomadic culture, as Director Evren mentioned. Thank you very much for your presentation.
The third presentation will be by Secretary General Soltengeldieva Sariva, and she is the UNESCO National Commission for the Kyrgyz Republic.
Okay, thank you very much. Dear forum participants, first of all, I would like to thank for organizers and our partners HK+ for inviting me and for long-standing and fruitful cooperations. It is a great honor to be here today and to present on cooperation in safeguarding shared cultural heritage through festival, the case of World Nomad Games. In this presentation, I would like to explore Central Asian rich cultural heritage. Previous speakers told about it, which is enhanced through joint efforts to preserve and promote our legacy of our ancestors. I will also highlight the important role the festivals like the World Nomad Games play in uniting diverse cultures as they showcase shared traditions and values on a global stage. Central Asia boasts a rich cultural heritage shaped by its complex history interactions with many civilizations. Situated along the Great Silk Road, this region has long been a crossroads for trade, ideas, and traditions, resulting in a vibrant cultural mosaic. This region, Kyrgyzstan, Kazakhstan, Tajikistan, Turkmenistan, and Uzbekistan, is united by a shared nomadic heritage with common cultural practices, traditional games, sports, culinary customs passed down through generations. These traditions reflect core values of hospitality, respect for nature, and a strong sense of community, emphasizing the deep connections among Central Asian peoples. The Silk Road not only enriched local cultures, but also fostered cooperation and interconnectedness. Festivals like Nowruz, New Year, and the World Nomad Games reinforce this unity by bringing together diverse cultures to celebrate their shared heritage through sports, music, and traditional arts. Central Asia is also home to numerous World Heritage sites, including Samarkand, Bukhara in Uzbekistan, Boranay Nagbishim in Kyrgyzstan, and Tamgali in Kazakhstan, and other UNESCO sites. These ancient cities thriving along the Silk Road and enduring symbols of the region's rich history and cultural significance. The National Commissions for UNESCO in Central Asia play a crucial role in promoting UNESCO cultural programs within their countries. They work to preserve cultural heritage through various initiatives, ensuring the traditional practices, historic sites, safeguarding for future generations, and in the field of documentary heritage, and etc. They support efforts that document and restore significant sites and intangible cultural elements, collaborate on joint educational and cultural initiatives, and enhance intercultural dialogue, organizing capacity building events, meetings. They empower local communities to take an active role in heritage management. Also, national commissions foster cooperation between stakeholders such as governmental agencies, ministries, communities, and non-governmental organizations to create a cohesive approach to cultural heritage preservations. Collaborative projects like multinational UNESCO nominations, future strengths among Central Asian countries, highlighting their shared cultural legacy. My previous colleagues speaker told about our multinational nominations. In recent years, we have submitted 8 multinational nomination files to UNESCO Intangible Cultural Heritage List. 4 sites successfully nominated for the World Heritage and Natural Heritage List, and at the moment we have ongoing nomination for tangible heritage, Fergana-Sirdarya corridor, and 1 ongoing nominations concerning the felt making. Today we talk about cultural festivals. Cultural festivals are a key platform for cooperation in the field of heritage preservation. Central Asia hosts a variety of such festivals, including Oimo International Craft Festival, which showcases traditional craftsmanship, the World Nomad Games, highlighting traditional sport and games, Aitish Festival, which celebrates performing arts, Korkuk Ata Festival in Kazakhstan, dedicated to oral traditions, and the Bukhara Silk and Spice Festival in Uzbekistan, which features traditional cuisines. In these presentations, today I will focus on World Nomad Games, an international event celebrating nomadic sports and culture. Also, festival plays a crucial role in safeguarding cultural heritage. They supporting research, documentation, promotions, contribute to transmission and capacity building, and exchange of knowledge and skills that contribute to cooperation and create to networking. Oh, sorry. Also, cultural heritage festivals contribute to strengthening cooperation between cultural domains and foster practitioners' networks, stimulate exchange between knowledge bearers and practitioners, promoting collaboration, raise awareness and promote the transmission of cultural heritage, support sustainable development, promote intercultural dialogue, showcase local traditions and creativity, contribute to regional creative industries cooperation, and also safeguard the cultural diversity and identity of Silk Road cultures. Celebrating diversity is the Nomad Games. The Nomad Games began as a local festival and have evolved into a unique platform for cultural cooperation. They exemplify how such these initiatives can revitalize and sustain not only traditional games, but also a broader range of cultural heritage. The festival serves as a powerful tool for celebrating diversity, fostering intercultural exchange, and preserving cultural legacy for future generations. Celebrating diversity, the Nomad Games, little bit of the history of these Nomad Games. Following Kyrgyzstan independence in 1991, our local communities began revitalizing their traditional culture, particularly in the field of traditional games. Knowledge bearers and practitioners connected to address challenges such as the loss of traditional knowledge and declining interest among younger generations. And starting by 2007, more than 220 traditional games and their variations were documented. And these efforts culminated in the organization of Nomad Games Festival in local level in all 7 regions of our country. Outcomes of Nomad Games include, in local level, increased safeguarding and transmissions of traditional games with informal clubs in the local community were open, strengthened connection with other cultural heritage elements such as traditional crafts, revival of traditional craftsmanship as increased demand for game equipment has renewed the practice of making items like saddles and boards for games, economic benefits as craft people sell their goods at festival sales. These local festivals led to launch World Nomad Games in 2012. The World Nomad Games is the largest international initiatives aimed at reviving and safeguarding nomad culture. Since their inception, they have been held in Kyrgyzstan in 2014 and 2016 and 2018, and in Turkey in 2022, with Kazakhstan set to host them in this year. To date, our 2,102 countries have participated with more 55,000 participations from 1,048 communities across many countries. In 2018, UNESCO officially endorsed the World Nomad Games, raising their visibility and encouraging broader participation. This led to the nomination and successful inscription of Nomad Games for good safeguarding practices. This recognition underscores the importance of preserving nomadic culture and support efforts to safeguard intangible cultural heritage in global level. Aligned with UNESCO objectives, the World Nomad Games promote traditional sports, intercultural dialogue, and collaboration among participating countries. The Games feature over 40 traditional nomadic sports and competitions, cultural programs including exhibitions, performance, and masterclass, scientific programs with conference and roundtable on nomadic cultures, creative industries with fashion shows and film presentation centered on nomadic civilization. Through these diverse offerings, the Nomad Games celebrate nomadic traditions and foster global cooperation. Also, nomads have traditionally lived in harmony with nature, and the World Nomad Games honor this by promoting environmental sustainability. The event incorporates eco-friendly practices and raises awareness about biodiversity conservation, emphasizing the balance between nomadic life and ecological preservation. The World Nomad Games have become a major draw for international tourists, significantly contributing to the local economy and improving the livelihoods of participating communities. Both the national and international levels of the Games have boosted the local economy by providing a platform for craft people to sell their goods. In conclusion, I would like to say the World Nomad Games greatly contribute to safeguarding the cultural and historical diversity of people around the world, promoting ethno-sport and traditional games at national, international, and global level, supporting research and development in the field of ethno-sport and traditional games, enhancing intercultural dialogue and cooperation, strengthening the viability of traditional games, and not only traditional games, and also other many cultural heritage elements, both tangible and intangible. Cooperation between Central Asia and Korea in safeguarding cultural heritage can be strengthened through many joint projects, knowledge exchange programs, collaborative festival, and educational initiatives. Korea's expertise in digital preservation and technologies-driven solutions can play a key role in these efforts. We'd like maybe more initiative in the creative industries, in the K-pop, documented heritage, and etc. And we will open to cooperate in different fields of Korean experts. And I hope we have many fruitful and many collaborative cooperations projects, not only the field of cultural heritage, but other fields also. I look forward to continue our fruitful cooperation. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Secretary General, for your presentation. This was indeed a very interesting topic. The World Nomad Festival, or the Nomad Games, was introduced as a way to collaborate on the preservation and safeguarding of nomad culture and Central Asian culture. Thank you for your suggestions as well.
Let me invite the last presenter of the session representing the Republic of Korea. We have with us Professor Eun Kyung-oh, Director of the Institute for Eurasian Turkic Studies at Dongguk Women's University, and she's going to talk about the dialogue for Central Asia Cultural Heritage Cooperation, centering on K-Silk Road. Good afternoon. As was introduced, I am Oh Eun-kyung from Dongguk Women's University. I would first like to thank you for the invitation. I understand that we were not able to meet in person because of the COVID-19 pandemic, but I remember seeing some of the familiar faces that I met through video, and the ICAS has also been working closely with our institute, so it is very meaningful that we're here in person exchanging ideas and sharing suggestions. I would now like to focus on the K-Silk Road initiative proposed by the Korean government and potential cooperation for cultural heritage between Korea and Central Asia. I'm going to speak in Korean, and I'm also going to see that speaking Korean is really a cool thing because Korean culture and Korean language is really popular. So that is why I've decided to speak in Korean. And my slides are also written in Korean. My initial question is this. In this particular session, we're talking about Central Asia. There are many regions around the world, but what does Central Asia mean to Korea? And when it comes to the boundaries of Central Asia, we basically know that there are 5 Central Asian countries, but so UNESCO has been working with these 5 Central Asian countries. But to take a step further, we also need to take a look at the language relations. This is an Altaic family, language family, and there are some disputes at the scholarly disputes about this type of language family, but I just wanted to briefly mention that. And this is artifact from ancient times where we have this comitatus or armed escort tradition, and some say that this type of tradition is related to the escort tradition in Shilla kingdom. And there have been some discussions on the similarities between tombs in Shinla dynasty and other tombs located in Central Asia, as well as these cultural artifacts that we excavated from these sites that are quite similar. And we also have similar religious traditions and artistic traditions. And so in that sense, our Buddhist art traditions are quite similar to what you may see in Central Asia. And when you go to Termis, you can see that there are these very ancient Buddhist temples. And when you look at the styles and the architectural designs of these Buddhist temples, you can see that there are a lot of similarities between what they have in Central Asia and what we have in Korea. So we have a very long history of exchanges. And here is an example of the Wang Ochanchuk Gukjeon, which is a travelogue by Buddhist monk Hyecho from the kingdom of Shilla, who traveled from Korea all the way through Central Asia. And here there are very detailed descriptions of what he saw in Central Asia traveling through this region. And when we also talk about Korea's relations with Uzbekistan, we always mention these ancient paintings in Afrasiab in Samarkand. At the face, at the entrance of the museum, you can find this painting, and here you can see that there are people from the Joseon dynasty wearing a very typical Joseon dynasty hats. And this means that we may have exchanges between the two countries. But when you look at the historical records, you can see that this is not really feasible. So based on the historical facts, so I sent an official letter to an institute in Uzbekistan. And so the director of the museum, he designed the museum itself. And this was actually a painting with an intention to show how Korea and Uzbekistan are closely related. So this painting is not from the old days, but if you go to this museum in Uzbekistan, I hope you will remember that it's not really based on the historical fact, but it is based on the aspiration to illustrate how Korea and Uzbekistan are closely related. And we know from the history that there were many coalitions and alliances, and we all know that the floor heating system was transferred from Goguryeo to Central Asia. And also we have the Munmu King Munmu monument, and it talks about the relations between the kingdom and Central Asia. I am not an archaeologist, but rather I'm a scholar researching intangible cultural heritage, and so I focus mainly on ICH. We all know that Korea and Central Asia have many shared spiritual traditions and also oral tradition. When we think about the Korean literature and many ideologies and ideas that we continue to inherit, we can find similarities in Mongolia and Turkmenistan and Tengrism. In Korea, we have this tradition of respecting the heaven, and we see that there are records of arguing that Korean people are descendants of people from the heaven. And this Tengrism and the elements of Tengrism are found not only in Korea but also in Central Asia. And when we talk about shamanism, well, shaman is from Tungus language, And in ancient Turkey, Gambakshi is the term referring to these shamans. And they were later turned into a Korean term called Paksumudang. So they sound similar. It means that we have this oral tradition and the spiritual tradition. And in Korea, we have the pansori tradition, which emerged in the 18th century, but it has its roots in oral literary tradition that we had. And I believe that there's some connection between our oral tradition and the oral traditions in Central Asia. And as was mentioned by the moderator, I believe that we have Koryo Saram or Korea, this diaspora in Central Asia, and there are many cultural heritage and traditions that have been succeeded by the Koryo Saram, and this diaspora is a connecting bridge between Korea and Central Asia. And I believe that the language spoken by these Korean people, diaspora in Central Asia, is something that we need to preserve. We need to gather and collect recordings, audio recordings of this particular dialect of Korean. We don't have a lot of people left who still use this language. And as far as I know, there are only about 10 native speakers of this Korean dialect of the diaspora. And if they pass away, then this particular dialect or language may disappear altogether. So we need to collect records of their speech so that we can preserve this very precious tradition. During the Moon Jae-in government, the Korean culture or Koryo Saram art house was opened in 2019. And what I like to mention in my presentation is, okay, we have similar culture and heritage and history, then what can we do with that? Professor Christopher Beckwith came up with this concept of cultural complex, and we can use this notion to discuss what we can do going forward. The cultural complex is what we need to continue to nurture because we already have the cultural complex, and we need to think about what we can do with the existing cultural complex that we already have. And I believe that this is a topic that we need to continue to discuss amongst ourselves. The Korean government has announced the K-Silk Road Initiative, and our discussion on the cultural complex is very relevant. And this is something that we need to do together going forward. Here, we have many people from the UNESCO regional offices and national commissions, and I know that a lot of effort has been made in preserving and promoting the Silk Road, and UNESCO conducted a comprehensive research on the Silk Road from 1988 to 1997, and this was a 10-year project, which was very significant. But now, with the K-Silk Road Initiative, Korea and Central Asia, and expanding that, Korea, Central Asia, and the Turkey countries can work together to nurture the cultural complex. We already have the cultural complex. Yuval Harari wrote the book titled Sapiens, and he mentioned that humanity was able to survive despite many threats by wild beasts, but humanity was able to create very rich civilization because of the culture of storytelling. And if we continue to inherit and safeguard these storytelling traditions, we can further expand the cultural complex. But if we neglect this, then we may end up losing this connection to the past, and this may all end up being a big loss. So, what do we need to do to foster the cultural complex? We have many intangible cultural heritages, but when it comes to our lifestyle and tradition, we need to pay attention to ICH, and we need to explore and foster the value of intangible heritage. So this means that we need to clearly define our cultural identity and deepen our cultural understanding so that we can create an environment conducive to peace. Now, the next question is whether ICH can be a driving force for a sustainable K-Silk Road. I believe that intangible heritage can be a very effective driving force behind the sustainable K-Silk Road that will promote regional cooperation. It's not just about cooperation related to culture, but this may expand to political cooperation, economic cooperation, and cooperation in many other areas. So in that sense, we need to go back to the concept of the cultural complex. And it's not just about protecting tangible cultural items or preserving intangible heritage, but rather it is more about what we can do to utilize the existing cultural complex. I'm sure you all know the definition of intangible heritage. There are 5 categories according to the UNESCO. And in order to safeguard these 5 categories of intangible heritage, a lot of effort has been made, and the previous 3 speakers already covered that. And I believe that such safeguarding activities are really valuable because these efforts have been very important in creating new connections. And HCAP has been a critical factor, and I've been working closely with HCAP for a long time. And I would argue that HCAP has been very active in Central Asia. So as you can see here, for the past 15 years, a lot of achievements have been made, including the stockpiling of ICH, developing videos, promoting people-to-people exchanges, conducting workshops and seminars, and supporting youth video production and photo exhibitions, and so on. And I know that ECAS has been a good partner for HCAP, and we also have Secretary General Sabira from the Kyrgyz Republic, and the regional office in Almaty provided a lot of support in enabling these activities. So I'd like to thank them for their contribution. I'm sure you are rather tired, so I'd like to now focus on what we can do in more specific terms. Utilizing the K-Silk Road initiative, what can we do to promote cooperation with respect to ICS? And ECAS is already doing this, and UNESCO and national commissions are already doing activities similar to this, but we need to upgrade our efforts. So these are 8 specific categories. First, research exchanges. We need a joint research and joint excavation effort, because in each country, we may not have a comprehensive understanding of the kinds of cultural heritage items that they have in each country. So this means that we need to continue our joint research. We need to investigate and identify ICH items in each of our nations. And when we conduct joint research, we can identify our intangible cultural heritage items and what we can do to strengthen the network of ICH experts and scholars from each country. And we may also hold academic conferences and workshops. I believe that such efforts need to be more organized. Right now, it is mainly pursued by HCAP and HCAP alone, but I hope that we will have more stakeholders participating in this process. And second, we need to expand cultural exchanges and programs. I know that there are a number of cultural festivals. We have ECAS Festival and World Nomad Games and other festivals. And also in Uzbekistan, there are many cultural festivals sponsored by UNESCO. I believe that we need to expand such cultural exchanges and festivals. And number 3 is providing more educational opportunities so that our younger generation can understand the importance of safeguarding ICH. And number 4, we need to be able to build and hold workshops with masters of cultural heritage. And as Secretary General Sabira emphasized, we need to focus on digitalization and documentation of ICH. Well, HCAP has been developing and creating documentary films and videos together with EBS. So exhibitions were held, and we can expand the scope of digitalization and documentation. And we can build a digital archive and a digital platform. We need more of such a platform. And also, Korea has excellent VR and AR technology that can be used for people to experience these intangible heritages. In the cultural the cultural hall in Gwangju, there was a Manas exhibition, and it was very impressive. And I argued that this has to be also held in Kyrgyzstan, where people would be able to appreciate such ICH. It's not just about Manas, but other ICH elements that people can experience utilizing virtual reality or augmented reality technology. So we need to be more active in utilizing advanced technology and enable people to appreciate intangible heritage digitally. We need to strengthen cooperation with international organizations, including UNESCO. Also, we need to think about maintaining and preserving living heritage. And to do that, we need financial support for traditional artisans and masters. If there is no financial independence, these people may not be able to transmit their intangible cultural heritage to the next generation. And number 7 is tourism and economic cooperation. A lot of people already mentioned that we need to utilize ICH for tourism. But this is a great idea, of course, and we can develop new tourism packages utilizing intangible heritage. And at the same time, I believe that there are many elements of ICH we can turn into modern day content, including films, musicals, or games. So there are endless possibilities for us to utilize ICH and turn them into interesting content. So we can get some funding from investors, and we can transfer the know-how in the cultural industry, because Korea has really well-advanced cultural and creative industries, and Korea can share such experiences with Central Asia. We can jointly organize exhibitions. We can turn some intangible cultural heritage into a musical show or a film, because the content, K-content, is an important portion of our culture, and we need to continue to get inspirations. And I believe that Central Asia can offer inspirations for content production. As someone who's researching heritage in Central Asia, I hope that we will be able to leverage the abundant cultural resources available in Central Asia, and we can turn them into content. And finally, we need to strengthen intergovernmental cooperation. Of course, there have been some MOUs and agreements signed between Korea and other countries, including Uzbekistan, but we need more specific plans, action plans for multilateral cooperation. And it should not just be about UNESCO, but individual governments have to be more active, and they can agree to create a body or standing committee that can organize intergovernmental activities. Furthermore, what the slide shows is the kinds of things that the Korean government should do or can do. First of all, I argue that we need a state-funded research institute. It requires a lot of funding, and I argue that funding should be provided to build a digital archive of ICH. Basically, it is about developing databases for ICH elements, not just for those that are listed at UNESCO, but rather all kinds of ICH elements need to be in the database. And to do so, we need a state-funded research institute. And Korea has conducted a lot of comparative studies with China, with Japan, and other countries, but we need more comparative research between Korea and Central Asian countries. Also, Korea can take the leadership in creating a consultative body. Next year, we will have the C5 Plus Korea Summit, but we need more than that. We can utilize the Turkic Countries Organization and the Korea Central Asia Cooperation Forum, and on the sidelines of the summit to be held next year, we can expand more cooperation and carry out more activities. And lastly, I believe we need to reform our university system. With the existing university education system, they are not really able to nurture experts on Central Asia. Of course, we have the relevant departments at Hankuk University of Foreign Studies, but we need more than that. We need more language offerings for Uzbek and Kazakh languages. We need more relevant majors and departments. And we need more Koreans who can study abroad with the scholarship from the government. And our university education and curriculum can be exported to Central Asia. Also, we can establish some cultural houses where we can have some regular film festivals, and we may also have some exchanges at the library level. And these are part of the public diplomacy initiatives. Korea is not fully aware of the importance of the Organization of Turkic States, but we need to pay attention to this organization and what they are doing. And Korea has been promoting cooperation with Central Asia. This has to be expanded further. And starting from next year, there will be a summit meeting with CA countries plus. And if we continue to leverage the K-Silk Road initiative, I believe that there's a lot more that Korea can do. When we think about culture, we seem to think that culture comes later than economic or political cooperation. So when it comes to international conferences, when they deal with political or economic cooperation, you see a large audience. But when it comes to culture, people do not seem to be that interested. But I like to argue that culture is an essential part of our world, and culture is something that can bind us together further. So we need to pay more attention to cooperation for culture. And by developing the cultural complex, we can promote economic and political cooperation as well. And the K-Silk Road initiative is all about that. Thank you for your attention. Thank you for your presentation. In Korea, well, as she mentioned, compared to the sessions on political or economic cooperation, we tend to have a smaller audience when we talk about cultural exchanges and cultural cooperation. But I'd like to once again argue, I agree with what Dr. Oh said, that culture should be the basis for cooperation. But in modern days, we seem to focus only on political or economic cooperation, but we need to really think about culture. Director Oh talked about the importance of the K-Silk Road initiative, and she presented 8 specific suggestions to further expand cooperation with Turkic countries and the Central Asian countries. And she also mentioned the importance of nurturing and strengthening the cultural complex in our region. Thank you so much for your contribution.
It is currently 5:30. I do believe that we have about 15 more minutes. We have heard 4 keynote presentations. Well, I can't look back, so I don't know how many people are still remaining with us. But if you have any comments or questions from the floor, we would like to open the floor for comments and questions. Please raise your hand and wait for a microphone. Thank you. I am from Hufs, and I am a professor of Central Asian Studies. I have 2 comments that I would like to share. First, when we heard from Director Evren, when we talk about Central Asia, many people picture nomads. But Central Asia is not all nomads because we have cities as well. There is a peaceful harmony of nomadic culture with urban areas. So I think that would be a better understanding. Second, Professor Oh discussed K Silk Road, and she provided us with a detailed explanation of K Silk Road. Thank you very much for the explanation. The name K Silk Road, it sounds very hopeful because it reflects Silk Road, and Silk Road implies many cultural aspects of Central Asia, as well as the Renaissance of 1,000 years ago in Central Asia. So I do believe that it is very hopeful that you have named the policy K Silk Road. Thank you very much.
Thank you again. Inspired by the presentation of Professor Oh, I have some concrete proposals, maybe suggestions. First of all, she talked about research exchange and determining some ICH items on which we can cooperate further. I have a proposal about this. Actually, we already discussed in the morning with the distinguished director of HK+, about exchange of experience on traditional paper production. There is a group of people working on this in Istanbul, Turkey, and you know Samarkand was also a historical center in paper production, which is still living. So we can organize an experience exchange program in Korea, and they would like to learn Korean experience too. So, and using, of course, the media opportunities in Korea, we can emphasize this common cultural heritage element. Second proposal is, as I said, we are an international organization, and directors are elected at a rotational basis. And fourth director of ICAS was from Korea. And during his term, from 2014 to 2018, there were some interns from Korea, interns in Samarkand in our institute. So we can do this again. We have a memorandum of understanding with your university too, with other institutions from Korea too. I invite you. I mean, we can provide logistic and organizational support about this. I mean, about any cultural issue. It can be archaeology or philology or anthropology. Students, graduate students working, researchers studying about that can come to Samarkand. Third is you talked about joint exhibitions. It's always an actual issue, but especially next year, General Conference of UNESCO is going to be organized in Samarkand, as you all know. So we can use this opportunity to organize some joint exhibitions in Samarkand in cooperation with Korea. We should also discuss this too in the forthcoming days and months. Thank you.
네, 교수님 감사합니다.
Thank you very much for your remarks. Are there any other questions or comments?
그러면 그 루트빌 교수님, 소장님께서 아까 말씀하셨던
Well, concerning Professor Irvin, Director Irvin's comments, we would like to turn to Director O. Well, thank you for your suggestions, especially concerning traditional paper. This is something that I have imagined for a long time because there are traditional papers in both countries, and having a cooperation project between the two traditional regions is a very good idea, in fact. And I also believe that there are other possibilities for cooperation. For example, whether it's horseback riding or archery on horseback, this should not only happen in an ad hoc way, but we should also have institutionalized cooperation for each item. So if it's traditional wrestling, we could have cooperation through ECAS for Central Asian countries that each have traditional wrestling. And it's quite encouraging that we have a possibility for a joint exhibition when you are hosting the UNESCO event. Dongdeok Women's University already has a MOU with ECAS, and we are also participating, and myself, I'm participating as a Korean representative when there is an ECAS event. And so we have had a very tight network for the last decade or so. And we have representatives from the UNESCO Regional Office in Almaty and the UNESCO National Commission of Kyrgyz Republic. I hope that we can continue with our collaboration as well, especially through the K-Silk Road initiative. And I hope that we can establish strategies not only for cultural cooperation, but I hope that it can also be expanded to politics and economy as well. Thank you.
네, 원경 교수님 고맙습니다.
Thank you very much for your remarks, Dr. O.
확인할게요. 혹시
Let me double check. Is there anyone who would like to make a comment or a question from the floor? If not,
질문이 없으시다면
then,
오늘 상 세션에 발제와
as the
논의를
moderator, I would like to wrap up, but I would like to also say that our discussions will later lead to actual cooperation and joint activities between Korea and Central Asia for cultural heritage. And I hope that we will have further discussions in the future
오늘 3세션 회의를
to continue our discussion. With that, let me conclude the third session. I'd like to express my gratitude to the four presenters for their wonderful contribution. And I would also like to thank the audience for staying with us until the end. Thank you.
그리고 제가 참고사항
And just for your reference, there is a housekeeping remark. Well, I will announce the housekeeping remarks. Thank you very much. I would like to mention the housekeeping remark. With the closing remarks of Professor Kang, we would like to invite the UNESCO participants for a separate photo session and another separate session for the project agency. Professor Kang, would you like to join us for the closing remarks? From very early in the morning, in fact, from 9:30 until 6 in the evening, it was indeed a very long day. Participating in a forum across the whole day is no easy feat, but we are here at the 2024 Culture and Strategies Forum for the Korean Peninsula and the North, and we have had fruitful discussions across 3 sessions. Thank you for joining us until late in the afternoon. And in particular, Professor Han Seok-kyu has joined us throughout the day, and thank you very much for joining us throughout the whole day. Thank you to President Han Seok-ki, thank you to our moderators, thank you to our speakers, and thank you to our discussants. During the morning, we have invited ambassadors from 8 countries, and they have participated in the diplomatic strategy session, and it was indeed a great contribution to taking the next step forward for the Korea-Central Asia cooperation. Thank you for remaining with us until the very end. This brings us to the end of the 4th Culture and Strategies Forum for the Korean Peninsula and the North. Thank you very much for this most successful forum. Thank you. We would like to invite the members of UNESCO to join us on stage. We do have a performance prepared after the photo session.